incredible profitability result. So as has been said a few times, this is an interactive session. Ask plenty of questions. That's how you'll get the gems out that'll help improve things in your business. So to start off with, I'll start off on this side. So probably more at a bit of a higher level. So these graphs, as Virginia was talking about, some of the dairy base pasture and crop eaten graphs. So I'll start with the furthest away one. It's a bit of a busy graph, but it's got 15 years worth of pasture harvested data. So each of the black dots on there is an individual farm. We've got data back to 2010 and through to this season. You might be able to see the light blue dots in the middle there, which are the average or the median for the year, and then the yellow line being the trend. So what the trend is telling us is that it's flat, that we're not getting any gains from pasture harvested. And if you think over a 15-year period what improvements we've had in something like a phone or our competitors' improvements in terms of maize production and grain production, they are getting pretty significant gains in this area. And if you have a look back at individual years, we've talked a bit about the 2014-15 and 15-16 low payouts. Interestingly, that was actually when pasture harvested was trending up, and then you watch milk price get good again, it starts to trend down again, and then it was trending up, and then we had the implementation of an end cap in 2020 and 21. And can you see those blue dots on there? Probably not that easily, but stick. So it's something we're going to have to start to turn around and improve. Now, if we overlay Mick Kirsten's result on here, so we've got close to 17 tonne of pasture harvested. So on this graph, it's at your stick as well, right in the top quartile, and a really, really excellent result. So that's what we want to drill into and find out how you're doing it. So similar to the other graphs, the financial graphs in the first session, pasture harvested has an extremely strong relationship with profit. So as we've talked a little bit about, this isn't a $10 payout when you'd think things like high per cow production or supplement feeding would get rewarded. It's good old pasture harvested, which still drives profit. So that relationship only gets stronger with lower payouts as margins get squeezed. So how do Mick and Kirsten do it? So I guess if we start at the start, because this is your third season. So if we go all the way back to the start and probably a little bit of what was happening historically here, because it was a very high output system and maybe not the same focus on grass as you would have. So can you talk a little bit about the challenges you faced when you arrived?
Yep, so obviously you see the infrastructure as you walk past, the feed pad system, a couple of tonne of cow going in there, I think, and reasonable production, 600 kilos of cow, a lot of emphasis on feed, probably not really pasture. I was explained their pasture system was, I've got 43 paddocks, one herd goes from 1 to 25 and the other one goes from 26 to 43, and that's how the grazing plan works, so don't make it too complicated. So he did not want to see my first farm walk. But what that actually meant is we didn't actually realise, we sort of had a bit of a look, but since the pasture had never been grazed down low, when we took it to 1450 at spring or 1400 in the springtime, it whacked off all the growth points. So when we got through to November, there was not a lot happening. So probably one thing we didn't see, we probably thought it may happen, but definitely in November there was nothing was growing. So yeah, I suppose that's sort of the piece around maintaining good residuals through spring and the back end of the season sets the plant up for the whole season.
So while we're at the start then, so you talked a little bit about your first round planner. So you say it's a really important part. Can you just talk us through a little bit of what some of your targets and why around pasture cover, around length, and there's a fair bit goes in between these two numbers, right?
Yep, so I suppose we're always trying to fine tune that number, but not every season's the same. So we sort of think if we drive at 2100, we grow 15, cows are off, 60 days will be about 293 tonne, and that's about what we need to get through, follow a spring rotation plan to get ourselves through to about the 20th of September to be well set up for getting cows peaking for the season. So I suppose that's where we get to with we get to 2100. And you can see a bit of you see a gap in that's not actually filled with feed. There's obviously some growth in there as well, but we just really maintain that spring rotation planner, and obviously anything that hasn't calved is just on maintenance, sort of 8 kilos, and then cows probably up to sort of 13, 14 kilos once they've calved, but everyone's always hitting residuals. Probably a big focus for us in the springtime is around pasture management. So farm team's awesome. We probably graze like Southland. We start at the very back of a paddock, portable troughs, back fenced every day, work our way to the front, managing multiple paddocks at one time as well if it's getting too wet, so we don't damage paddocks too much. When we do a laneway, it's just to fit cows down, not a vehicle. So when we at the back end of the season, we can just rip the drill up a 3 metre strip and then be good to go. And then obviously any of our new pastures are protected around when it does get wet. The farm team are bloody good at flicking cows onto a paddock that we're going to regrass or one of those paddocks.
So then what are your triggers towards the end of the first round and getting close to that magic balance day? What are some of your triggers that then lead you to speeding up the round, and what some of your targets through peak around pre-grazing? You've talked about your post-grazing targets and ground length.
Yeah, so I suppose we're sort of maintaining about a 2100 average pasture cover through from after calving, but just around growth rates. As soon as growth rates, we look at actually two things. We look at temperature and growth rates. So doing plenty of farm walks just to keep our eye on around exactly what's happening, and then we'll fluctuate from 23, 25 days. As soon as we hit that, we went a little bit quicker last year. We dropped about to 21 days, but this year we just have not seen the soil temp there to allow us to do that, and probably only in the last week we've actually come into a bit of a surplus of pasture. So main drivers for us around the information we see when we do our farm walk around growth rates, and then just maintaining the pasture cover to do that. And as soon as the cover's over sort of 3-2, we'll put a mower through it and put it into a bale straight away. We don't leave it, so it's a surplus today, so get it off, get it back in the round, and don't let it bulk up.
So you're touching a little bit on your surplus management there, and the graph shows, through peak that you would have surplus. I guess a couple of questions around the setting of your stocking rate to match that supply-demand graph, and then what other tools aside from silage do you use around surplus management, i.e. nitrogen policy, regrassing policy?
Yep. Regrassing in as soon as that early, before we sort of know that that's coming. We know it's going to be around that. So try and get it out in September, so we can take a bit of that bulk growth out. We do about sort of 2 paddocks, sort of 14 hectares of the platform goes into just a diploid white clover mix. That's what we currently do, and I suppose the focus for us to grow more pastures, explore, I suppose, what cultivars we should be using, but I suppose there hasn't been a lot of change in grass grown or pasture harvested, so I suppose for us is around what cultivar should we be using into the future, and also probably just around our establishment of the pasture as well. So I suppose we used to view pasture at 17 tonne or 18 tonne or 20 tonne. Now we're actually, from thinking about it, it's actually 200 tonne crop. So the time and effort you get into setting up that 200 tonne crop is really, really important, and probably potentially haven't taken the care and time to get that really well established and look after it. So I suppose it's thinking about pasture as a 200 tonne crop, not a 15 or 16 tonne crop.
Sorry, I should have said there's a little bit more detail in your handout, pages 28, 29 around this stuff. So just growing on that, I really like that, 200 tonne crop, because you're not growing it for a year, are you? You're growing it for 10 plus if you're doing it well. Talk about some other opportunities and your current gap, because you've got in the handout there around some of your best performing paddocks versus your worst performing paddocks, and how do you see yourself closing those gaps?
Yep, so soil fertility was probably a bit of a gap. When we come here, had a bit of a soil test, some history there, but didn't feel some of the paddocks were performing at an Olsen P of 45 plus. So actually soil tested the whole farm, found out that was the case, and there was Olsen Ps of 14, 15. So a bit of quite a bit of corrective went on to sort that out. Trying to maintain, I suppose, between 25 to 35 corrective years, trying to get Olsen Ps back to 30 and a pH of around 6. And then around the irrigation system here is pretty good, so there's not too much we think we can do there. Got Lismore soil, so reasonably good water holding capacity. But next step for us is around, we went through and paddock scored every paddock to understand what is probably more just around what weeds was in every paddock. And then using our farm walk data to select our worst performing paddocks, and we've got variances from say 14 tonne to our highest paddock I think was on farm walk data was 22 tonne. So I suppose lifting that, those 14, 15 tonnes to 18 even is a massive step. Haven't done the numbers on it though.
So we talked a little bit about your nitrogen use strategy. So it would be you're using about 6 applications, probably for 9 grazings. Would you generally 9 to 10 grazings per paddock? Can you just talk us through how that works? And again, you've touched on the effluent area piece and just the comparison between the two blocks.
So we have set applications, and we actually, I suppose back when we did the Selwyn Hines stuff, and actually Adrian Van Weisveld sort of said to me one day, why don't you just apply the whole farm? And I was like, that's pretty crazy. Why would you do that when we have a massive surplus? And then I sort of thought, geez, that would be pretty simple. This is probably before Hawkeye was, or whatever Balance have, but you had bits of paper and highlighted paddocks and all sorts of stuff. So that's how and that's what we did. We went to one application, whole farm, and to make things really simple, so we could see what we were applying. So now we've actually split into 2 applications in the season, or 2 parts of the farm. So the non-effluent area gets 6 applications, and the effluent area gets 3 applications. We start out in August with soil temp allowing about sort of 80 kilos of urea, and then we do 15th of September we put on a 70, and then we do 60 start of November, and then was it 16 November? Start of November, December, nothing in January, and then the back end of February. So it's about 180 units on the non-effluent area, and then 101 on the effluent area, which is this whole block here is the effluent area. So just 3 applications for the effluent area.
Do you find with that you talked about that big flush of feed and then crashes in feed, do you still feel like you get a consistent growth curve?
Yeah, we do. It definitely was pretty, like big swing when you did the whole farm at once. And then you probably lose a bit of the efficiency around when you apply it. So we try and apply, obviously, when cows have grazing or about to graze. So we still try and follow that, but we'll just have half of the farm get done, then the other half. So it's not always the same 2 maps that go in. So, but still trying to get the efficiency around the timing with nitrogen. And then I suppose we're also looking at, would we be better off to apply a big chunk of nitrogen, say, October, November, when obviously pastures, you're growing the most amount of pasture, so you get best bang for buck. So we haven't done all the numbers on that, but we're sort of thinking that's probably not that good idea, because all we're going to do is put a mower through it and put it in a bale. So I'm comfortable with what we're doing at present.
Any questions so far? So we're probably through winter, spring, and into summer management. And somebody be running mics around, are you, Virginia? There's 400 of you. Someone must have something to say.
Absolutely. You might have to raise your hand. I'm not very tall.
You talked about your pasture development. What are you doing? What have you found is the best way to get that done? Are you ploughing, roller drilling, direct drill?
Direct drill is what we're currently doing as fast as possible. which is probably our thought process is, are we doing the best thing? Are we better off to have, take a bit more time to get it right before, and spray and weeds and everything else that comes through it, and then also maybe a little bit of stuff around maybe some cross drilling, obviously more expensive, but whether that bulks the feed up a little bit quicker. I'm not sure if it grow any more pasture, but I suppose these are all just ideas and nothing more than that. But I definitely sort of think if you want the most out of your pasture, that establishment piece must be, top notch, and I don't feel we here are doing it justice. Yeah.
Pasture quality is essential in your system. What are the 3 key principles you use, and do you do pasture herbage testing? Because you talked about your quality 13 ME feed going into your cows.
Yeah, that's what I read in the book. No, but like it is the key driver for us, and it's actually just around pre-grazing covers. So, and I suppose grazing down to a level that allows sunlight in to obviously let the plant till it, but also let the light in for clover to grow as well. So all those things are just real basic principles of how grass grows. So just being really diligent with making sure we hit residual. If we haven't hit residuals, cows go back to a paddock, they'll clean up, and then the guys will say, hey, can you move the cows at 6 or 7 or whatever it is tonight? So really diligent around making sure, and then at the other end as well, if covers go above, say, 3.2, 3.3, we'll be taking them out and putting them into a bale. So just maintaining that pasture qualities is a focus for us, but for us it's like it's the only thing we really do is just manage grass, watch, seed growth rates, act on what we see, and so the decisions we have aren't a lot, so we should be able to do them reasonably well.
My observation is that you guys talk about pasture every single day. Like, this formulates the basis of your farm decisions and discussions on farm with your team.
Yep, that and a few Irish jokes. But no, definitely, like it is. I don't know, to me it seems it is very simple, and we just farm how we farm and really enjoy it, and it's simple. But the basis of it, the farm walk gets done, that gets put into the feed plan. If guys do the feed plan, and then where cows are going and how all that stuff works. But my bit is just get the information for them and do the farm, and have started doing some farm walks with them. So obviously they know what a good residual is and take them out to the paddocks. But there's not many days that go past we wouldn't be talking about grass or pasture or residual.
Because it's a really important point, right? Like you're doing this at scale, you can't do this by yourself, and you've got significant off-farm commitments, right? So a lot of what is being implemented through your people, and it isn't being implemented by you guys running around and doing it 20 hours a day, is it? So.
Yeah, and it literally come with our farm team, look at this, hey guy, this is what we expect our residual to look like. And sometimes we're a bit guilty from going from that spring piece where everything looks like a bowling green, to say, no, let's lift residuals now, lift a little bit of intake from spring to that, but it's all just little tweaks to the system.
So what's your target peak production per cow?
It's a funny one, because like I couldn't actually tell you what we're doing today. I couldn't tell you. It doesn't actually something we really look at. We think we could probably get to say 450 a cow, somewhere around there, doing what we're doing with the, grow a bit more pasture and those sort of things. But then does it change our system on the back end of having more days of milk into that back end of the season, into autumn? So I think if we can get our 6-week and calf rate lifted, that will be a big driver for us to lift that as well.
Oh, fabulous results, guys, thanks. And your system's insulating you against inflation deliberately, intelligently. Well, wintering's a huge inflationary input in Canterbury at the moment, and an agent will tell you we all need to feed the cows 15 kilos at 45 cents or whatever it is. So how do you manage winter? What do you feed your cows to make sure that's contributing to your cost control and your good mating outcomes?
Yeah, so obviously we have a reasonably good relationship. Probably the relationship's probably the most important, but we have with our neighbour Tom and Amy around the wintering. So we sort of have a set price that we agree on. We actually supply the seed for for them to put in, so they don't have that upfront cost. So there's some commitment that we're going to turn up, and then we're feeding levels maximised, I suppose, through that early June to sort of, I suppose, we're about 12 kilos of beef, as much as we can basically get into them in that early stage. So that's the only time we really want to target putting some weight into the cows, wintered on beet and kale transition, and then solely on beet and a bit of straw. And then from that, just, I suppose, any cow that's getting to condition score 5 is pulled back and just maintained. So not trying to feed everything the same. So they might be down to sort of 10 kilos of feed through the winter. So just, I suppose, a bit of preferential feeding to some cows and a little bit less to others.
How wet or dry is everyone feeling? We can take this back inside. Great way to make it rain is to have a focus day outside.
It's not windy though.
It's not windy, it's great. Hand up if you want to go back inside. Alright, we'll wander back and we'll take this back up.
Just before you do, this is a residual, is it? You've got the cows over there. Have a look at the cows and have a look at the residual. Where does this residual fit in your, what do you call this, and where does it fit into your scale?
I just wrote 1500, but I think it's more like 1460, somewhere around there. This is the residual we're sort of trying to target. This is what we try and target every day. So pre-graze about 3100. You can have a look there and see our cows that only eat grass, see what they look like.
Just everyone, if they want to reconvene in the main shed, just have a loop around the cows and we'll see you back there in 10 minutes.
Profile 2 tonne on average across the farm. What are you going to do to stock around, or do you think you'll get it all through the current cows?
Yeah, I suppose it needs to be consent change one for one, whereas we've stuck to maximum numbers now. But no, I definitely think we can, sort of early 6 week calf rate, we can definitely chuck a bit more through the cows. So at this stage, there will potentially be a bit more production per cow and a bit more through the cow, but then potentially some options around what we do in that with that feed through winter, whether we have some more cows on farm or do some stuff here, because we do grow a reasonable amount of pasture through winter as well here, so it's not nothing. So some options around that too with heifers on farm.
Just a question about regrassing plans, or how much do you do regrassing per year?
Yeah, so we do, obviously from our AgriNet data, we pick our worst performing paddocks and then we use that data to select the paddocks we're going to use. We generally use them as a sort of a sacrifice bit of a paddock during the spring, and it's just a diploid and white clover mix at the moment, but just looking for some evidence that we should trial or do something different around some sort of texture point diploid clover mixes and potentially some plantain in there if we can make it stick around. So, but at the moment, just a diploid clover mix is what we're doing currently. 14 hectares out of 260 is what we're doing. So, 5% there.
Yeah, Mick, you're well done on your pasture management, and your whole outfit's pretty impressive. Just on that regrassing, 5% a year, and you look at a 200 tonne crop, so you're 20 years to get around the farm. Could you use more nitrogen at times and maybe head to a 10% regrassing program?
Yeah, definitely. My thoughts are the same, that we're going to have to bite the bullet at some point and do something different if we're serious about getting to that number. So I suppose every decision you make will have a causal a reaction to that. So I suppose we just need to sit down, do some numbers and make a real, I suppose just want some evidence around, I suppose some pastures up north Taranaki are 30 years old and they don't do anything to them, and here we're under irrigation, watering, and what is it that pastures aren't persistent, or what are we doing? What am I doing wrong here that we're not getting longevity out of pastures? So I suppose that's the thought process for us: find some evidence that backs what we think is going to happen, and then use that information to make a decision.
Matt, you do use a little bit of supplement. Interested in your thoughts around, how do you choose what you use, when do you use it, and what are you trying to achieve with it?
So we've used a little bit of feed I suppose it's more been November, when we've come into a bit of a pinch. We did last season get some PK, because it's cheap. Won't do that again because we don't put enough in, and it's not a feed that you can quickly put in and take out to fill a feed gap. So, and then the emissions on the back end of that as well. So we've actually gone back to just having grass silage. It's really simple to feed. So just going grass silage, and our feed decisions are all around feeding the wedge, not the cows. So if we don't have the pasture cover, we'll lengthen round out, go bang to 30 days, put a heap of feed in it once and push cover up quickly, not just slowly chip a little bit of feed in. So be really planned and calculated when we're putting feed into the system, is to get ourselves back to average pasture cover.
So just aware that we've still got a little bit to talk about with cows and mating. So just quickly on your autumn, because we haven't quite done the autumn, can you just give us 2 minutes on January through to May and what your targets are around ground length, pasture cover, residuals, etc.?
Yep. So I suppose we build out from February from about 35 days, and then sort of every month go out 10 days. So by the end of sort of start of May, we're on a 60-day round. How do we do that? Is basically culling cows. So cull cows really early, and then just use the lower stocking rate to match that lower demand with pasture cover, and that helps us push a cover through to 2.6, 2.7, and then obviously through April, May we just drop off, and then targeting sort of around that 2.1 cover at dry off. So that's a non-negotiable. So we sort of that back end of the season can be really tricky because you go, oh, we've dried off now, but you can actually eat a lot of cover in the May even when cows are dry. So the farm walk doesn't stop, or the plans don't stop just once the cows are dry, because they might be dry on 15th of May. So just maintaining that pasture cover through there as well and feed the meals.
And you sort of see in the, it's page 28, which was up on the board, just how the autumn deficit is basically non-existent because of that proactive destocking, isn't it? So we'll just jump ahead in the interest of time. We've still got some cows to talk about. So managed to have a quick flyby the herd out there. Can you just talk a little bit through, put the herd together, what's your target cow type, breed, what things are you, what things did you try and purchase and what things are you breeding for?
I suppose we just were looking, when we got the herd together, we were just trying to put a herd together basically. We were hoping we could get, not have multiple lines to make up a herd. So we were fortunate to buy a chunk of a herd. There's about 800 cows in total on that herd. That was sort of a Frisian crossbred herd, probably more predominantly Frisian. And then we bought all the young stock, was sort of a crossy young stock. And then we bought about 270 Jersey cows from the north, or actually top of south, to make up the herd. We probably try and, I suppose, just around efficient cows. So probably, if you see our cows are not huge cows, probably around 430, 440 maybe, somewhere around there. Haven't actually weighed them, but just trying to have a really efficient cow that I suppose that we don't see is what we want. Is obviously you don't see her because she's not lame. She gets in calf and she turns up to the shed every day and gets milk. So just our main focus is around driver is around fertility. So looking for a crossbreed cow. I suppose into the future we'll potentially, if you look at live weights, birth live weights of the crossbreed and the Jersey, they're all getting quite a lot bigger. So we're breeding a bigger cow. So potentially at some point we'll probably flip to Jersey, but not 100% sure when that'll be. But if the live weights keep lifting, we'll be changing.
So you've got the fertility focus report in your handouts. I think we've had a couple of questions on it, but just to grow on that one, we've flagged a couple of things around where it is and where you want it to go. What's your early indicators for this year around submission rate? Have you looked at non-return rate? How's the
plan playing out?
Yep, so we had 867 submitted in the first 3 weeks, so 86% submitted in the first three weeks. Haven't actually checked the non-return rate, but we're reasonably comfortable with where we're sitting or what cows are coming back. I haven't had a brief look, but I couldn't actually tell you off the top of my head. But early indications, things look pretty good. And cows are cycling, but probably put a lot of effort goes into maintaining that cow or body condition score early, and just good animal health as well around retained membranes. The guys are real quick onto that. Actually sort of struggling to lift iodine levels last year, so actually flicked back to iodine teat spray to help lift the iodine levels through to mating with our mating mix. So probably just little changes that don't know if they'll make a huge difference, but just to focus on once a day and body condition scores probably main drivers.
Any questions around the cow type and fertility focus course? John?
Yeah, I guess if you're trying to get from 70 to 80% 6 week, how does that fit the system in terms of a squeeze, or is there more supplement? Because obviously more cows earlier on.
Yep, so potentially there's a bit more feed goes in there, or just having a bigger opening cover potentially. So just having a big opening cover when we come back with 3+. Is another option, but potentially there's definitely a lot more pressure on the system when you get to that level. So we're not afraid to put feed in, like we're not allergic to it, but it's got to be, we'll put it in when we need to, but it's just around feeding wedges, not cows. So if we can, look, the cover's not there, it's just magically like this. We were no different to everyone else this year. We have battled right through, like the first 2 seasons we cut 50 hectares of silage. This year we've cut 0. So we're no different to everybody else. Low soil temps, growth hasn't been there. So potentially on some seasons we'll get through, and some seasons we'll need to fill that wedge.
Any other questions?
So intervention, are we doing much intervention, and what do we do with our young stock as the intervention with the young stock? I think was the question. So this year is the first year actually we've done synchro on the heifers. They're just down the road, so we've synchroed them to try, and obviously they're our best fertility animals that we've got coming through. So so we've done an AOD on them. Intervention on the main herd. No veterinary intervention, so obviously no PG, no CEDA, none of that sort of stuff, but intervention in the way of looking after the cow's health, body score once a day, definitely things that we use, but we're not putting CEDAs or PG programs in there as well. And sometimes you sort of think, oh geez, these guys are getting 95%, all the cows submitted and all this sort of stuff, but I suppose anything that's not natural we find that we don't get a bang from. So. But have done on the heifers for this first year. So.
And just it was flagged before on the previous boards, but your animal health and breeding spend being 13 cents below that mid-Canterbury average, so that's sort of 50 to 70k, saved, and sort of contributes towards that low cost structure, doesn't it?
Yep. Not really, no.
The question.
Do I watch my milk protein graph? No, I suppose we do keep a bit of an eye on it. It's just, I suppose, a thing for us around pasture quality and stuff like that. But no, it's not something we look. We're not going to put in some DGGs or whatever. We just not something that we focus on.
Just to estimate when your cows are coming in out of it and
Yeah. No, I don't.
You talked a bit about your fertility BV being a big target. How's that progressing?
Yeah, so the average of the herd is 2.7. Our 24 born animals, So yeah, 2.7 for the main average of the herd. The young stock coming through 24 born were 4.2, and the 25 borns were 3.9. So there's obviously been a wee bit of a lift in there. And I suppose we've obviously I supervise with Jerry Holdings, and that's been a strategy for them for the last sort of 6 years, and some farms performing extremely high. I think the lowest 6 week calf rate there might be 69% or something like that. So I suppose that's what gives us confidence that we're on the right track after for us.
Yeah, and you look at your submission rates trending in the right direction, and you talked a little bit about cows that don't suit the system are falling out of the system, and you're breeding for animals that do fit your system. So I think we've probably got time for another 1 or 2.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Minutes, so
Raise your hand if you can, so I can get to you with the mic.
can be about cows are breeding, or we can go back to pasture as well.
Yeah, we've got a question over here.
Or anything.
Sorry, this is goes back to pasture growth and fertiliser use, not cow fertility. Mick, your whole farm is on bore water, 50 metres deep, at roughly 10 milligrams per litre, based on the 450 millimetres you put on last year that you've informed us of. That's the equivalent of about 40 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare that went on through the irrigation water inadvertently. Do you factor that into your thinking? Do you think that might be why you're growing so much grass with so little? Because if you add 40 to 150, that's 190, just coincidentally.
Yeah, well, until you were here today, I didn't know that fact. So, thank you very much for coming along. But yeah, it's definitely, obviously, it is a thing, and we've heard about nitrogen and water. So, it's definitely something we should factor into the future as well. But it's not something we currently do model. I suppose on that, you tuned up today and you've done that test. It's probably, obviously, it's pretty quick and simple test to do, or I don't know.
Is it a simple test? If you have a sensor, yes, it takes 30 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah, I should have done like a Greenpeace thing. You could have all brought us a sample of water and I could have tested it for you if you wanted to. But we forgot, so sorry.
Mick mentioned before he's keen on opportunities to improve. Does anyone have any feedback on the system that you've seen so far? We've walked twice past a massive big feedback which looks like it's gathering dust. Does anyone have an opinion on whether he should be using that?
Yeah, I've got an opinion. And the opinion is no, he shouldn't, because he's making good money now, isn't he?
And the cows are scared of palm kernel, are they?
Yeah, when we first put it in, obviously we don't feed all the season, so the first sort of week they had to get used to something dropping in front of them, so, and then a week later we took it out, so as they got used to it we took it out, so yeah, I suppose that's one of the other reasons it didn't quite fit our system as well, so, and then just when Fonterra offered up some more money around that emission piece, we thought, well, is that something we should chase? So, pasture is probably what we do, and it's pretty simple, so we'll just stay with buying grass silage.
Yeah, Mick, with obviously culling cows early, do you herd test to actually see what your cows are doing? Because obviously you're probably doing more like 450 per cow with early culling.
Do we herd test? No, we do not herd test. We do have milk metering in the shed though, and I sort of said to the team, like, I'm not across milking every day, like I fill in gaps and bits and pieces, but I suppose Noel's been a bit of a charge in that. We said we either take it out or we use it because we're paying a subscription for it. So the guys do use it around around cell count and stuff like that, but I think we're definitely not targeting getting rid of cows. It's more around we've had enough cows sort of drop out of the system through not being in calf, so not something that we've targeted at the moment.
Could you just elaborate a little bit more on how you actually do your farm walks and what technology you're using? Who does the intervals or any sort of systems you put in place for them? Because it's such a key part of what you're doing.
Yep, so farm walk is me and my eyes. I'm I suppose that's the one thing that I haven't taken, or don't leave full control the guys do. They still obviously do their farm walks, but I basically just go around the farm, do my farm walk. One, it gives me a good check on the farm. Farm walks are done weekly to every 4 days in this sort of really growthy parts of the season, because that's when the season is defined within days, not weeks. So just being really focused and making sure I do the farm walk, that I'm comfortable with numbers, and then obviously to back that to feeding levels of the cow. So I just put a number on and go, oh yeah, looks about right. Go, okay, did that residual get hit? More, actually a bit more there. So always constantly making sure that I'm calibrated with what I'm putting down, not just numbers. But funnily enough, our AgriNet data was actually pretty close to what we got out at the other end when we run it through benchmarking data as well. So must be some truth in it.
I think we'll wrap it up there because we've got to get on to
one quick one. Just while you're wandering around the farm on your farm walks and that, you're obviously looking at the pastures and pasture composition as you go. One observation just out in the paddock here, just the amount of broadleaf plantain in particular as a weed, which doesn't really contribute much. If you think about how you might manage that situation, and Matt, you might have some suggestions or thoughts as well.
I didn't yesterday, Murray.
That's why I'm asking you now.
No, and that's probably what we got most out of the pasture assessment we did on farm, is around controlling those flat weeds and stuff like that, with power and all sorts of dandelions and all those sorts of things, is managing those as well, because they do obviously suck up a lot of nutrients from the plants as well. So, and that probably all comes back to being better established and spraying and all those sort of things that we're thinking of. Obviously, are a lot more important than probably the importance that we did put on them. So, definitely around some spraying, and we've got some recommendations about sorting some of those species, all those weeds out of the system. So it's definitely going to be a focus. But I suppose it's just how do we do it? When's the best time to do it? Not whacking out clovers and things like that. So definitely something we're going to look into now that we've done the feed assessment with Russell, and that's just done through Fonterra. So anyone can get that done on their property, and it's a good process to actually sit down with someone else. It's like when you bought a red car and everyone's got a red car. It's sort of the same when you actually dive into looking at the weeds, you see the bloody things everywhere. So yeah, it's amazing what you see when you look with someone else, fresh set of eyes. No, we don't use any project.
Cool. I think we'll wrap up, and I'll just very quickly close from some observations from myself. I don't think anything you've seen here is completely revolutionary or any silver bullets or anything out of the ordinary. It's just a really strong focus on the basics and the detail done extremely well. You're using your cows to harvest pasture to feed your cows, and that may not sound like too big of a difference, but it is actually a pretty important philosophy. And getting exceptional results and looking at returns, at a $10 payout that are right top tier, very little input. We're trying to get better and lower, but you've flagged those other opportunities for improvement as well. So, really awesome session, and we'll move on to session 3. I think John, you're going to